Hey, welcome back to A Math Lab. Today I'm going to go over some trig identities. What I'm going to do is start off with something really simple, and then I'll sort of move it up and I guess get a little more complicated. So depending on how much time I have will depend on how many I do, or how many I do will depend on how much time I have, I should say. Alright, so let's get started. I guess the first thing about trig identities that you should remember is always try to rewrite it so that you can see it better. For example, here's a good example of one that you'd want to rewrite so that you can see it better. So I've got sine x times secant x is equal to tangent x. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, let's rewrite this. What I'm going to try to do is prove that this side is equal to that side, right? So let's just take this side right here. I can take either side. Let's do this side right here. So I have sine x times 1 over cosine x is equal to tangent x. So that's a pretty simple one, right? Because now we can say, well, this is the same thing as sine x over 1 times 1 over cosine x, which is the same thing as sine x over cosine x, and tangent x is the same thing as sine x over cosine x. So tangent x is equal to tangent x. So that looks good, right? So at first it looks a little, I guess, a little complicated. You know, the more you try, the more, the better you'll do, really. So let's see, let's try another one. That's kind of distracting. Okay. How about this one? Tangent x times cosecant x times cosine x is equal to 1. So we got to prove that all this right here on this side is equal to 1. So at first, once again, it looks a little complicated. It really isn't, right? I mean, let me show you why. Okay, so tangent x is really just sine x over cosine x, right? Times, what is cosecant x? Well, cosecant x is 1 over sine x. And cosine x is just cosine x. We can write that over 1, doesn't really matter. So we want to make sure, we want to see that if this is equal to 1. So, well, look, first thing I can do is cancel out a bunch of stuff, right? I mean, we've got cosine x over cosine x, we have sine x, and then, this becomes 1, this is 1, 1, 1. So really it becomes 1 times 1 times 1 is equal to 1. Well, 1 times 1 times 1 is equal to 1, right? So 1 is equal to 1. Check. So once again, it looks a little hard, but it really isn't. Okay, so let's move on. And as I go along here, it's going to get a little more complicated, not much. But just remember, you see it, the first thing you want to do is rewrite it so maybe you can understand it better. Okay, let's see. Let's try this. Cosine squared x minus sine squared x is equal to 2 cosine squared x minus 1. Okay, let's see. I could rewrite this. I could work either side, really. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this side and concentrate on it. So, let's see here. Well, I've got an identity, right? If you remember this identity, it's cosine squared x. Well, here, let's do this. Sine squared x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1. And so, what is sine squared x? Well, sine squared x is equal to sine squared x. I'm going to subtract cosine squared x from this side, and that's going to be 1 minus cosine squared x. So this is just an identity here, and it's just for this right here. So I'm going to rewrite this. So let's come down here, and I'm going to say, okay, well, I've got cosine squared x minus, and then in parentheses, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 1 minus cosine squared x is equal to, we want to see if it's equal to this side right here, right? So let's find out. Okay. Well, let's see. If I distribute this negative, I've got cosine squared x, and I'm going to distribute this negative sign, minus 1 plus cosine squared x is equal to the other side, which is this. I'm not going to rewrite it, so we're just focusing on this. Okay, so now I've got like terms here. I've got cosine squared x and cosine squared x, so it's 2 cosine squared x minus 1. And you've probably already seen it. We started off with wondering if it's equal to this. And it is. So once again, it's probably my friend. Okay, I'll call him back. So once again, you got this right here. It looks a little complicated. We're not really sure how it's going to match, but really the big key is try to rewrite it to see if it looks easier, and if not, that's okay. We've probably got some identities to work with, and we can figure this out. This is actually one of the harder things for trig students to get a hold on of. But like I said, if you practice it, you'll get a lot better. Yeah, let's see. Let's try at least one more. I'm kind of running out of time here. Let's do this. Okay. Okay, let's try this one. Tangent theta plus cotangent theta is equal to secant theta times cosecant theta. So we want to know if this side is equal to that side. Okay, I'm going to work with this side once again. Usually I work with the left side. If I can't figure out the left side, then I'll start working with the right side. And if neither one of those work out, I'll start working the left side, and then I'll start working the right side. So maybe somewhere they'll meet somewhere, and you'll kind of realize it somewhere along the way. Okay, so let's start working with this one. This is tangent theta is the same thing as sine theta over cosine theta plus cotangent theta, which is cosine theta over sine theta. Okay, and this is equal to, and I'm just going to rewrite this just to see kind of what it looks like, 1 over cosine theta, that's what secant is, times 1 over sine theta. Okay. So actually here what I want to do is I'm gonna since it's tangent theta plus cotangent theta, I'm going to find a least common denominator, and in this case it's sine theta. This is going to be my LCD. Yeah, my least common denominator. We're going to call it cosine theta sine theta. So that's my least common denominator. So I'm sure you've seen that from I'm sure you're really familiar with adding and subtracting fractions by now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply what this one's missing, which is sine theta. So on top we're going to have sine theta squared over sine theta cosine theta plus, what is this one missing? Well, it's missing cosine theta squared over sine theta cosine theta. And I can just rewrite this under one denominator, right? So let's write it sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta, which is over sine theta cosine theta. Well, here, this is actually an identity, right? Sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. So I'm going to rewrite that as 1 over sine theta cosine theta. And then if we look back over here, well, this is what we started off with, right? Well, is that equal? Sure. 1 over sine theta cosine theta. So it looks good. Oh, there we go. So we wanted to know from the beginning, did it work? Are these sides equal? I worked out one side. I worked out a little bit of another side just to see where it might meet, and it did. It met right here. Okay, so I hope that gives you a little bit of practice, but I'm running out of time now, and I'll probably work some more of these identities for you, so stay tuned.